I have a question for you. What if you could create a stamp impression that looks like watercolor? You can already do that? What a weird question, you might ask. I got you. I totally got you. But what if I told you that you can create a stamp impression that looks like watercolor and that is waterproof in the end? Do you know how to do that? If not, this video is for you. Hi there, this is Luise Heinzel. Welcome to my channel Junk Journal Art. Thank you very much for joining me today. I'm a little bit nervous today, I have to say, because there are only two options in my eyes for you to react to this video and to today's idea. The first option could be that you laugh about me the whole video long and that you say, Luise, what are you doing there? I already know that what you are showing there is possible. The second option would be that you are as excited about that as I am, because for me, that was a total game changer. My mind is a little bit like blown away because I think I found out something that we haven't known before. I have searched the whole internet, the whole YouTube. It was like being relatively close to the darknet, but I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find someone else who has done that before. So let's go into that. The idea behind that is, if you take a piece of paper, so this is just some regular watercolor paper, and you take a stamp, for example, this one, this is from Vines and Roses CMS 298 from Tim Holtz and Stampers Anonymous. And if you take this stamp and you stamp to your paper with a water-soluble ink, yeah, so that you can get like a watercolor effect. Let's take some Distress Oxide walnut stain to make an example for that. You could think, okay, let's take this. Let's put some ink here to the stamp. Now there are two possibilities to reach a watercolor effect. The first possibility would be to stamp the stamp to the paper and then add some water and look what happens. Or the other possibility is to take water now and spritz that to your stamp and then press that to your paper. I think the most of you know this technique, and you know what will happen now. If I lift that up, I get this. And this is some kind of a, yeah, like watercolory stamp impression. You could also now take some more water and put that here to get this more loose and abstract. And the water would also, of course, activate the ink now and give you this lovely oxide effect that the oxide ink can make. If you now dry this, I will quickly do that. Then it looks like this when it's dry. A really lovely effect, really, really loose. And for me, this is absolutely gorgeous. But the problem is when you now, for example, want to glue something on top here, for example, a little collage or a pocket in your junk journal or whatever, and you would use glue, or if you would like to, for example, make some shadows around the flowers, and for that you want to use a water-based medium. For example, a Stabilo oil pen with water or a Distress crayon and then add water. This, of course, would smear, because this, when you add water, I will demonstrate every water-based medium with just water, yeah, but it's exactly the same if you use only water or a water brush or any other kind of wet medium like glue, for example, as well. If we now make this wet, of course, the ink runs away and makes this crazy thing here. And this is not waterproof. You could take a sealer, for example, a resist spray, or like this artist's fixative or something like that, or microglaze to put that on top. But then you would have, on the one hand, more drying time, and on the other hand, most of the fixatives that are existing are glossy, and they are not always meant to put some water-based mediums on top of the layer that you have used for sealing this. Do you know what I mean? If I put resist spray on top here, I would have this really glossy, like nearly like plasticky surface. And it's really hard to put something on top that is water-based because it would never dry on that surface. But I found a way to make a waterproof impression of this that looks like watercolor, that gives you also some more really, really cool effects next to the watercolor look. And I would like to show you that. We are also going to take Distress Oxide ink, and it will become waterproof in the end. Drum roll. I'm going to take a piece of paper, and that is, I would say, 50% of the secret of this technique, because this paper is not just a normal piece of paper, and it's not a watercolor paper, but the secret is photo paper. This is a photo paper that you can use with an inkjet printer. This paper has a special surface that is matte on the one hand, and that is made for printing photos. This is also the paper that you probably would use to print out digital printables for your junk journals. This paper comes from the brand Photo Paper Direct. If I can find this on Amazon, I will link that down below for you. So let's take the same stamp that we've used before. Let's take the same ink, Distress Oxide ink, Walnut Stain. I'm just putting the ink to my stamp exactly in the same way like I've done it before. Just like this. And now I'm taking my water and I'm spritzing that directly to the photo paper. You have to make a mess with the water, otherwise this wouldn't work. As you can see, or it would work, but it would give you not such a watercolory effect. Yeah, I want to have a really, really like painted with a paintbrush effect. For that, I'm spritzing lots of water. I'm waiting until the paper gets a little bit up here. Then you can press that down again. So the water has soaked into the paper now. And you want to have it lay relatively flat on your table, of course, so that you are able to get a nice impression of the stamp. So I'm just pressing that down with my fingers so that it is flat again. Then I'm spritzing more water. You need a lot of water for this. And then I'm taking my stamp and I'm pressing that down into the water. And then it is really helpful if you have a brayer or something like that to go over your acrylic plate where you've mounted the stamp. You could also do that with a stamping platform, of course. That would be also possible, but I haven't done that because I don't want it to get my platform so wet. This way is really easy, I would say, and not such a mess on the platform. So I'm going over this. And now when you lift that up, you might think, oh no, that didn't work. I have lots of water here and it looks really, really strange. Don't panic. That is exactly what you want to have here. Now you're going to take a dry paper towel, put that on top. So you have something like this on your paper towel, and you have this on your paper. I will quickly dry that with my heat gun. And when it's dry, it looks like this. This is a little bit different to what we got before. So let's quickly compare that. So here on the left, you can see what we've just done on the watercolor paper. And this is the photo paper. The first difference that you can see is the color. You can see that the walnut stain Distress Oxide ink here came out like walnut stain, yeah, like you would expect the color. Here on this piece, it looks really, really rusty, and only in some areas it is similar to walnut stain. If you want to take a look to my swatch of walnut stain, there you can perhaps see the difference a little bit better. I will put that here to the middle. So here I have made this layering technique with the Oxide ink walnut stain, meaning putting some ink to the paper, drying that, putting more ink to the paper just by dabbing that into the ink, and then drying it, more ink, drying it, and so on, so that I get this, yeah, like typical Oxide ink background. And you can see there's already a difference between both of these, but there's a very big difference, especially color-wise, between both of these. Meaning this thing on the photo paper will give you not the exact color of walnut stain. It will give you something a little bit different. But I think that this looks really, really interesting. This has so many different shades of this orangey rusty color. It looks really, really interesting. The oxidation here in the in the corner, you can see that probably the best. The oxidation is absolutely gorgeous. For me, this is a piece of art by itself. It's just amazing, and it's just made with one stamp in approximately 1 minute. This, what you have in the background, looks like it was done with watercolor. Of course, this is not controllable what will happen there, but you know, watercolor is a little bit uncontrollable, isn't it? And the best thing about this is now, if I spritz water to this piece, nothing will come off. Can you see that? It's totally waterproof now. Nothing comes off. It's completely waterproof. Meaning you could now take another stamp. Let's just do that. And another color, whatever you want to have. Let's take, for example, this one here. This stamp comes from Artful Artifacts. This the number is CMS 080, also from Tim Holtz. So let's take this one and let's think about some possibilities, yeah? Let's take ground espresso so that we can also see another color on the piece here. So I'm just putting the ink to my stamp. I add water to this. I can do that because it's waterproof now. And then I want to stamp like to the middle of where we already have stamped and where the white paper is, so that you can see. Oh no, I have moved the stamp. Oh, let's lift it up. Perhaps I have a mess now, but then it was my fault. But I think it worked. I think it worked. When I have that, I'm taking a paper towel again to lift up the water and the rest of the ink. Just like this. I will dry that with my heat gun again. Ground espresso comes out a little bit more close to the reality than walnut stain. But as you can see, the color is also a little bit different than we would expect it. But the main point for me here, let's just fold that here so that the camera has not so much problem with all of the white on the paper. The main point for me here is that you can still see the clear impression of the flowers below this ornament stamp here. And this is for me absolutely amazing, because now you could do everything that you want. Yeah, you could layer lots of stamps on top of each other without impacting what is below. And every time you use water with Distress Oxide inks, of course, you have some kind of a problem. And with all of this sealing and the stuff, I mean, sealing can be helpful for some techniques, yeah? But for this, I mean, could it be easier than this? And for me, with this technique, there's also another thing that is really, really amazing. And that is digital paper. I mean, you know, I have an Etsy shop. I'm selling digital paper. And I get lots of questions. What if I have bought a digital printable paper collection and I don't know what to do with that? I have printed out some basic pages from my shop. Those are called Basics Volume 2. In this set, you get some background papers for your junk journals. This is really, yeah, like the name says, basic. And this is meant to put other things on top to make those papers your own and unique. But of course, you could do this stamping technique on this photo paper with any other design. Yeah, you could take every digital paper that you have, print that out on matte photo paper, and then you could do this technique that I'm showing you today. I have chosen those more plain papers just for the reason of using the camera here, because when I stamp to this, you can see way more clearly what is happening here than if I would have a whole design with flowers or something going on. Yeah, but you could also do that with a really, really busy and full printable paper that already has a design on it. That's absolutely no problem. It's all about the paper. Speaking about the paper, so let's choose this here. Please don't be confused. This digital printable from my Etsy shop, I have printed to this photo paper. Yeah, if you would use normal copy paper and you would take a printable, then this technique would not work. If you take a normal copy paper and you print something out and you put water to it, the ink from your printer would smear and it would, like, yeah, bleed your whole image. When you print a printable to matte photo paper, the ink that comes from your printer, meaning what you can see here, is already waterproof. Yeah, you can spritz water to it, nothing will smear, nothing comes off from the paper. Yeah, what you can see here is just some ink that I had from the ink pad on my fingers, but the ink from the printer doesn't come off. That means that this paper, when you print the printable to matte photo paper, comes out from your printer waterproof. So, that being said, you could of course take your stamp and stamp to this using what you have on your printable as a background. I want to use this same stamp again. Just a quick little tip. If you have used the stamp for this technique, you have, of course, lots of water on the stamp and probably a little rest of the ink, yeah, that is left over here. Just take that and press that somewhere to your, I'm so sorry, to your paper. Perhaps you will see nothing now, but because it's not so much what's left there, But later on, when that is dry, you will see that you got something here if there was some ink left. Then we are going to clean the stamp, and please make sure that the stamp is dry. I'm just doing that out of the camera so that it is completely dry when you use it again, because you don't want to get water to your ink pad. That's not a good idea. For the next color, I want to try brushed corduroy. Let's see how that comes out on this background. Normally the color looks like this. A really gorgeous color, by the way. One of my absolutely favorite colors. And I absolutely love the oxide effect of this color. So let's see what we get here. I'm spritzing more water here. Then I'm going to take the stamp. Let's start here in the corner perhaps. Press it down. Take my brayer. Just a little bit. Take that off, and you might think, "Ooh, that didn't work." When I experienced this technique, I was like, "Oh no, it didn't work." But please just wait. Just take your paper towel, lift the water and the rest of the ink up that might be there. Let's take another stamp, because I wanted to show you different things. So this was brushed corduroy. Let's take this stamp. This comes from Artful Artifacts. The number is CMS 080. And I absolutely love this stamp. This face is so gorgeous. Let's take frayed burlap for the next color. Lift that up. Take a paper towel and get rid of this. And now I will quickly dry it so that we can see what happened with brushed corduroy and frayed burlap. So this one, stamped with brushed corduroy, came out like this. Isn't this just amazing? I mean, the oxidation of the ink is so irregular and so gorgeous. If you want to reach something like this, I mean, with another technique, please tell me how you would do that in the same amount of time. Do you know what I mean? This is so quick and so easy, just incredible. And this, for me, is the most amazing thing I could imagine, because this looks like real watercolor. If you don't know that this was a stamp, you would probably think someone has painted this with a paintbrush. And for those kinds of stamps, like faces or also flowers or something like that, this technique for me is just amazing. It's just mind-blowing. I don't know. I'm so hoping that it's the same for you. So this was frayed burlap. Normally the ink, the oxide ink looks like this. You can see it's really, really different. And it's of course also depending on the color of the paper that came out from your printer, from the printable, how the color comes out. And that is the only thing where I could say, oh, that is not so good. Yeah, because I now have to make swatches of all of my Distress Oxide inks with exactly this technique to be able to know in advance, before stamping, which color I will get. If you need this for a special project, and if you think, okay, I need this or that color, or in my journal I have some blue flowers and I need especially this or that orange, or I don't know what you could need, then of course it could be a little problem, because when you don't know how the color comes out, it's like a surprise. I like surprises, as you know, but perhaps it's not for everyone, not knowing which color you will get when you stamp. But for me, I'm so thrilled about this technique that I don't care about the fact that I probably have to make some more swatches, because yeah, it's not a problem. I mean, it's fun and it's like playing around and experimenting, and that's great. And I can learn a lot from that. And why not just do that? So yeah, I can easily put that to my swatch booklets, or if you don't have something like that, you could of course also take some tiny tags or just some samples of paper or whatever and use that to see how the color comes out. Here you can see with this stamp, it has much of those solid areas, and here you can see much of this oxidation. If you don't like so much of this chalky finish, just spritz some more water, take a paper towel again and just go over that to lift that up. A little bit of that will stay there. I think enough of this stays here. And when you dry that, it looks absolutely fantastic. I promise. So that was, by the way, a vintage photo. And I want to have some more flowers or something like that. And I also want to have butterflies. So I will take this stamp back again that we've used in the beginning. And I will just stamp some flowers. Which color shall we use? I think... what color shall we use? Shall we perhaps use something that's not so brownish? What about forest moss? What about forest moss? I mean, if you don't know which color you should use your favorite color. So I will quickly do that with forest moss. So this is not dry yet. This is the forest moss up here and this. But I also want to have something here. And I've decided to go really crazy with mustard seed. I have to know that, how that will come out. Because I think the background paper and this mustard seed color could be really gorgeous. If it comes out like yellow, you know, perhaps it turns into something totally different. It's so crazy that you first can't see anything and then later on it appears with the drying. That's totally crazy. And you could also try out what would happen if you have your paper not totally wet. Here it feels a tiny little bit wet. Here it's nearly dry. You could of course also take the stamp. Let's do it. This stamp is really big. I can't do it like that. I don't want to have the whole impression here. So I will just press it here and there and lift the edges up a little bit so that I get only a tiny little bit of that. But what I'm trying to say is the paper doesn't have to be completely wet, depending on which kind of end result you are looking for. For the more abstract and watercolory look, you use more water, but you could also do it like this, and you can already see that it turns really chalky and white. Meaning, if this was your base and you now want to add something like a highlight top layer of stamping, you could leave the paper like it is, don't make it completely wet, but don't dry it completely, and just go over that with your stamp and then dry it and see what happens. Like this perhaps. I also want to have some more here. And what I also want to show you are butterflies. We need some butterflies here because that is absolutely gorgeous. Crackling campfire. We are going to use crackling campfire. Normally, I guess I would not come to that idea because it's perhaps a little bit crazy color for this, what we already have here. But let's try it. So I will first go in here and stamp without adding more water. So as I said, the paper is still a little bit wet, but I want to show you the difference. Let's put him perhaps here, why not, to his nose. And then we add more water and stamp this one here on top of those flowers with the forest moss, like this. And now I will dry this completely so that we can see what we got. This looks a little bit like I had no idea about color combinations. I'm a little bit surprised. The crackling campfire came out totally different. It looks like pink here. Really crazy. Here it's a little bit neon, I would say. Forest moss is surprisingly really close to what I have expected from that color. The mustard seed here we can't really see, but I think that's because of the color of the background paper. That was probably not the best paper to stamp that. Here you can see it also not so good, but I like those imperfections. Yeah, if you don't like that, you should probably, yeah, as I said, make swatches or take a more contrasted color. I mean, this yellow of the mustard seed is, I mean, it's a yellow, and the original paper is in this green, and that is not such a big contrast. If you want to avoid those imperfections, then it's probably better to take a darker color. Here, for example, the forest moss, as you can see, gives a really, really nice contrast. And for this video, I have also went a little bit crazy with the colors. If you want to see a little bit more like harmonious end result, then please watch my German video. I will quickly show you the results from that video. There I have taken different colors and a different background. And as you can see, this turned out a little bit more like vintage and a little bit more harmonious perhaps as well. It's not so extremely colorful, but of course that's personal taste, and of course it's also depending on where you want to put those papers later, if it fits or not. Perhaps you have something like this and you think, okay, I don't want to use that as a page in my junk journal. Because if we would fold that like this, then we would have this here as one of our pages, because, yeah, you know, we will only see the half of the paper. This would be perhaps okay for me, especially with this butterfly here on the nose. It looks really nice. I think this would be okay for me as a page in a journal, I mean. But this is a little bit like crazy. It looks like you have tried out something. I mean, we have tried out something, yeah, but it looks a little bit weird. What could you do with those papers if you have made some experiments with this technique that I have shown you, because you don't want to throw those experimental papers away? Yeah, that would make absolutely no sense. You could take this and you could search for areas that you like for example, cards, tags, belly bands, pockets or something like that. So if I see this, I would say we could just, it would probably be better to iron this paper before you cut it, but I think you can imagine that I will just do it here like this without ironing it. But it would probably be better because the paper is relatively wavy at the moment, and it would definitely help with the cutting if it would be totally flat. But I think you can imagine what I'm trying to say here. So for example, this would be a completely great background for a little journaling card, or you could cut off the corners here and you would have a little tag for your journal. The same with this one here. It would make a great journaling card as well. Or you could also glue that down to your junk journal page as a tuck spot by gluing it here, and then you could tuck something behind here. And what to do with this woman and the butterfly that is relatively close to her here. This is now a little bit weird because the stamp was cut here and here, but I like it. I like it better than with the butterfly on it. And of course we could take this and, for example, sew that to another piece of paper to give that a little frame or something, to make this like perfect again in the end. Because this now looks a little bit like lost. But if you imagine you have, for example, yeah, let's take this. Why not this? You have, for example, this, and you would layer that on top of each other, like so, and then perhaps something lighter behind here. Is that perhaps a little bit too big? Yeah, that's too big and too light. Let's see, what else do we have? I also have this little card that is a little bit lighter. It is probably a little bit the wrong color and the wrong size, but can you imagine what I want to say? To bring this piece that we've cut relatively weirdly into a new context, and then you have something that is coming out, you have an interesting background, and you have a piece of art within minutes, because this is just easy. You can make a bunch of those, cut them down, and yeah, use that for other projects. You could also, of course, take this and use that as collage fodder. For example, this piece where the stamping with the mustard seed went a little bit wrong, I will not throw this away. Yeah, this is great collage fodder. I will put that into my box of collage fodder, and then I can use that for collages, for making a background or something like that. Yeah, so I hope that you could take something with you from this video. I hope you will try some different color combinations of this technique, because as you can see, it can turn out really, really differently. I'm really excited what you will come up with. Please share that on social media if that's possible for you. If you want to use the hashtag JunkJournalArt mit Luise Heinzel, I would be really, really happy. Then I can find your posts really easily. And you can also tag me at Luise Heinzel. You can read that here. And if you perhaps are interested in joining a German Facebook group, then you can find my Facebook group, Junk Journal Deutsch, that means German, linked down below this video as well. The posts there are mainly in German, but this group is in the meantime growing into a little international group, I would say. And there are many of you who have already joined, so perhaps you want to come to that group as well. And you can always use the translator button that Facebook gives you to read the German posts, of course, as well. So have much fun with this and see you the next time. Bye bye.